I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors and ask everyone to rise as Mr. Brooks leads us in invocation and Mr. Labulio leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Gracious and merciful Creators, again we come to thank you. Lord, we thank you for 2013, and we thank you for all the accomplishments and achievements we made this past year, and we just thank you for allowing us to see another year. And if it's thy will, allow us to go into 2014 with power and conviction as we go forward to do that's been beneficial for this of King George County. Lord, we thank you for Mr. Labulio, who served the past 4 years on this board. We pray for Godspeed for him as he goes forward in his life. We pray for the young men and women over in foreign countries fighting for our freedom in this land. And Lord, we pray for all the citizens of King George County. These blessings we ask in your precious name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. Travis, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, sir. The Service Authority will have a closed session pursuant to State Code Section 2.2-3711A7 for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel and staff concerning litigation with Hazel Homes, LLC.
Do we have a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Motion made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries, and the agenda is duly amended. This time, I open the floor for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the Service Authority, we welcome you to the podium at this time.
Good evening and happy holidays. My name is Patrick Henry, and I'm an attorney with the Mars Law Firm, and I'm here tonight on behalf of my client, Brooks & Company General Contractors.
Yeah, Ms. Henry, I think you want to address the Board of Supervisors, and we're currently in the Service Authority meeting.
Oh,
I
apologize.
That's okay. Well,
when will that start?
pretty shortly.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah. So we convene the Service Authority at 6. Then we'll have the Water Authority immediately following. So, yeah. All right. So we thought we had 2. Now we're down to none. Anyone wishing to address the Service Authority? Seeing none, we'll close that public comment portion and bring it back to reports and members of the board. Mr. Gazika?
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Brooks?
No report, Mr. Howell.
Ms. Bravo?
No report.
Mr. Bulio?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I haven't heard any complaints from Fairview Beach about the work that's going on down there, and I have heard a few positives that people are thankful that seeing it moving forward. So I just want to congratulate Chris and all his people and crew in that they've done a wonderful job down there, and also addressing any complaints that do come up right away. And that he's done a spectacular job, not only on this job, but over the past 4 years that I've been on the board here. And I'd like to thank him. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. And I have no report. This time, entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Eric, anything as county attorney at this time?
No report at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. We do have Mr. Andrew Grossnickel here with us tonight from Robinson, Farmer, and Cox to present our annual audit. Andrew, glad to have you.
Thank you for having me here this evening. I'm just going to go over a few highlights from the Service Authority, CAFR, an audit, and then I'll be back in a few minutes to go over the same for the county. You should have bound copies of both reports. I'm just going to go through a couple things on the Service Authority report. First couple things I'll point out, there are 2 auditors' reports in this comprehensive annual financial report. First one is directly after the financial section tab on page number 1. Starting on page number 1 is the independent auditor's report. This was unmodified or a clean opinion on the financial statements. I will point out, and this will be the same in the county opinion, so I won't rehash it again. There is an emphasis of a matter for adoption of a couple new GASB pronouncements related to GASB 63 and 65. These change some of the terminology from net assets to net position It added in deferred inflows and deferred outflows. The latest trends of GASB are moving governmental financial reporting closer to private sector financial reporting. And this is another one of those in that trend. And I'll talk later during the county presentation a little bit about an upcoming GASB on pension that will also move in that direction as well. But again, this mainly cosmetic. One change that did have number changes to it, it required you to write off issuance costs, which in the past had been capitalized as an other asset. And under this GASB, you moving forward will expense them, and any that over the years you had picked up, you would write those off. So there's a restatement related to beginning balances because it's retroactive to the beginning balances. And so those were just written off in accordance with this GASB. There's the other opinion that I referenced, or report, is in the very back after the compliance section. It's a government audit standards, or what we call the Yellow Book report. It is another positive report. We had no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies related to the service authority. So again, that's a clean report. I'm going to highlight a couple things, and again, these couple items I'm going to highlight are present while different content in the county report, so I kind of won't go in depth when I get to the county presentation, but two items that are client prepared that are contained in this document are the letter of transmittal and the management discussion and analysis document. The first one, the letter of transmittal, is in the introductory section, starting on Roman numeral number 7. And this provides a narrative about the authority and when it comes to the county, about the county respectively, some long-term financial planning, upcoming projects and things of that nature, some information about the local economy. And then the management discussion analysis, which is directly after the independent auditors report and starts on page number 5. That goes through more of the actual 2013 year's numbers. And it's a good narrative format that walks through increases and decreases in net position and revenues and expenses, and kind of gives some good reasons for some of the changes that you'd see in the exhibits. So it's good to read that few-page management discussion and analysis in conjunction with the exhibits, or kind of refer back to it when you're looking at the exhibits and saying, okay, net position went up or down, what happened there. So in the exhibits themselves, I'm just going to highlight a couple items. On page number 11 is Exhibit 1. You'll see that the total net position, and again we're calling it net position now, at the end of June 30th, 13 is $14.1 million compared to $14.5 million in 2012. There is, the authority has that new category for deferred outflows of resources. The only item applicable to the authority, it's a deferred charge on refunding. In the past, that's been treated as a contra liability, so it had been a deduction from long-term liabilities. Now it's treated sort of like an asset, but it's in its own category. So that's something that's different if you were to look at this year's report to last year, and that's related to the GASB implementation for this year. On exhibit number 2 on page 12, you'll see that the net asset figure that I mentioned is a decrease of $462,009 from 2012, and that's mainly driven by depreciation expense outweighing the capital outlays for 2013. One item to note, for the first time in a few years, the $175,000 was transferred from the authority to the county to support some of the shared costs. Revenues were up slightly, $4.6 million compared to $4.49. Expenses were down slightly, and interest down a little bit due to the reduction in amounts outstanding on normal retirements of obligations. On page 13, Exhibit 3, you'll just see the statement of cash flows that walks through the actual increase or decrease in cash, and you see that the actual cash and cash equivalents increased $43,815 during the year ended June 30th, 2013. Just want to, again, kind of just, I like to highlight and kind of just stress the importance of a few things, and one of them is the notes to the financials that start on page 15 right after Exhibit 3. They provide a lot of good narrative and more detail on the figures that we have presented and mentioned in the previous exhibits. For example, on page number 24, you'll see the long-term obligations note, and because the service authority is a comparative statement. You'll see for a lot of these tables actually show for both 2012 and 2013, so you can see what happened in 12 compared to what happened in 13 as far as increases and decreases in long-term obligations, and also then moving forward through this note specifically, you can see the amounts that are required to retire the various types of long-term obligations over the years. So it's a good tool when you're going through your normal planning processes to look at some of these note tables to see where you stand as far as what your long-term obligations are and so forth and so on. Again, I'll be back in a few minutes to talk about the county and kind of all that side of the ledger, but at this time I'd be glad to answer any questions related to the Service Authority.
Are there any questions for Andrew?
I just have one.
Yes, ma'am.
1 second here. On table 8 in the back, I was just curious as to why it's, as far as it's calculated as debt per capita, when in actuality, the only ones burdened with that debt are the customers of the Service Authority.
It's just something that GFOA requires in that statistical table. That's just something.
It seems misleading to me.
It's just something that they want in that statistical table. It's one of the things that both CAFRs are submitted annually to GFOA for certificate and financial achievement. It's one of the things that they ask is for debt per capita ratios. So,
Okay.
Anything else? Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Chris, General Manager's report. Or did Robin want to go first? Oh, yeah, Robin, your finance report. Sorry. You're right. I got tied up in the audit report there and was thinking that was finances. Thanks.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The spreadsheet you have before you is a summary of actual revenues and expenditures through November. Total revenues being $1,587,892. Total expenditures, $1,531,116. We are on track in comparison to prior years. And starting with the January projection, you will see projections in the January report. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
Let's try again, Chris.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. General Manager's report tonight. I guess for the first time in a long time, I actually have nothing to report to you. So I guess that's my holiday gift for you all this evening. So I will answer any questions if you do have any.
Are there any topics of interest to address with Chris? All right, thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else to come up this evening before we go to closed session? John, you have the motion for closed session.
I move that the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors go into closed session pursuant to State Code Section 2.2-3711A7 for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel and staff concerning litigation with Hazel Homes, LLC. I invite the county administrator, county attorney, and general manager to attend for purposes of consultation and discussion.
Motion made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. We are in closed session.
I move that the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors return to public session and certify that only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements by Virginia law and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded. Mr. Gazika, do you certify? Aye. Mr. Brooks? So certify. Ms. Bravo?
Aye.
Mr. Lulio?
I so certify.
Chair certifies we are back in open session. Any additional business to come before the Service Authority this evening?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. We are adjourned. This time we'll call to order the regular meeting of the King George County Wireless Authority Board of Directors. Travis, any amendments to the agenda for the Wireless Authority?
No, sir.
All right, this time open for public comment for the Wireless Authority. Anyone wishing to speak at tonight's meeting, we'd welcome you to the podium at this time. Welcome, Warren.
Good evening, Board. I would today like to...
I know we know you, but we still got to ask you to identify yourself.
Sorry about that. Warren Veazey, 8229 Lighthouse Lane, King George County. I would like to talk to you for the King George Connected group. This is my own personal feelings, though. We haven't cleared it to the group. And also, I'd like to try to clear up several of the letter to the editors, including one in today's Freelance Star, that seemed to point out that rural areas should never get broadband because they're rural. And also to show you what King George Connected is hoping for. 2 pointers that the writers don't seem to understand is, one, we are not looking for the county to pay any money or build any wired infrastructure. We believe, just as the board has pointed out, that these solutions will be provided by private industry. So we are simply trying to encourage that, become a business-friendly county. So by doing that, we need to lower some government regulations to allow the private businesses to bring in their solutions to provide us with the utility that broadband internet is today. What they don't seem to understand is most of the world, including developing countries and Europe and Asia, they are completely skipping copper and fiber wires and going directly to wireless. It's much cheaper. Obviously, you don't have to dig cables everywhere. And what I found out, to my surprise, was the current wireless equipment is an order of magnitude faster than fiber or cable. So there is no reason at all to put in fiber and cable, and something you all might want to consider what you're doing for the industrial park. You're putting in old technology. You may look into what these new equipment have to offer as far as bandwidth of the speed. They say nowadays you can do your phone, your internet, and TV even over these very high-speed wireless systems. What these systems do require is line of sight from pole to pole to broadcast their trunk line, if you will, and then individual line of sight to a house with an antenna on your chimney or whatnot. But these are simply, they're not cell towers, and that's where the issue is coming in, I believe, which is what's holding it back in this county as opposed to other counties that I've researched in the Northern Neck. So it turns out that living in a rural area is actually beneficial for these sort of systems because they are line of sight. We don't have high-rise buildings blocking them, and we're a relatively flat county, so it sort of lends itself to having these 150-foot high towers being able to provide that line of sight without any high-rise buildings blocking them. So I've called around myself to 4 or 5 other counties and found out that in Richmond County, they charge $0 for a permit and $0 for a zoning. They simply ask the company or individual to tell them they're putting up a tower, much like I believe we do for ham radio. Same situation, no charge. Middlesex charges $25 for a permit, $0 for a zoning. Northumberland, $40 for a permit, $0 for zoning. Lancaster is $200 with the zoning. Matthews is $50 with a $25 zoning. So you can see how low these are. Our county is $200 for a permit, and you have to get a special exception, which is going to be $300 to $1,000 depending on your zoning of your property, plus a charge per acre. So you can see it's monetarily just not going to happen in this county because of our government regulations and what we are considering. Our regulations call these things telecommunication towers, and I believe they were written 10 or 20 years ago to try to get some money off of cell towers, as we knew that people were going to, Verizon was going to put in a cell tower. Let's milk them a little bit and get some money off of for those 5 or 10 towers they're going to put up in the county. What these companies need is a much smaller footprint. It's basically a telephone pole, much like I've seen one in front of the Potomac Elementary School. It's a pine tree, 2 foot in diameter, 100 feet tall, and they put a small, like 50-watt broadcaster on the top. Very low impact. It's a wooden pole. It doesn't stand out that much. They only needed it 10 or 20 feet higher than the existing trees. It's not a 150 to 200 foot tall tripod or 4-legged steel cell tower, which is what we're used to and what this county is currently regulating them as, and I think that is the big problem. And what I would ask you all is to have Mrs. Quisenberry contact some of these other counties to see what their regulations are. It's not only just the height of the tower, it's where you're allowed to put them, offsets from property lines and distance from buildings. The closer to a building with 120 volts of power, because that's all they need, the better for them to put it in, less digging, easier to have a crane literally right on the road, right on the edge of the property, swing over and put the tower up and you're done. The one company that does do this in the Northern Neck, but not in this county, has 110 or so poles and towers. They do some existing cell towers that they multi-use. They've got about 3,000 customers, so that's 30 people per pole, because these are out in the country, the lower served areas. Not a lot of people. So obviously you can see if they've got 30 people to a pole and it's costing them thousands of dollars to put a pole up, they're not going to make any money. Therefore, they're not going to work in this county, and we are not going to get served. So what King George Connected is hoping you all would do is review your existing zoning and your permitting fees and simply do what you all have stated. Let this be a private solution and let it lower government regulations. I want to hear somebody here say they are in favor of more government regulation. Anyone? No. So come on, do what you all think is right. Let the private industry do this, provide the solution. And provide what is a utility. We've had several, the other letter to the editors were like, nobody needs internet, blah, blah, That's all very nice to somebody who doesn't use it, but my wife just called up the library to register for an event, and they told her, go online and do it. Well, guess what? We can at our house on a regular basis get online that easily to do these things. So even the state, the county government is going to have to spend more money to have an individual take it over the phone to do county business versus using your websites and getting this done cheaply. So it'll cost the county money by not having a utility that works. It's going to just like banks are going to ATMs and whatnot and everything's online because it's cheaper and more efficient. And we as in the county's government is standing in the way of that happening in this county. So that's what we are asking you to do, not to put in wires anywhere and not to go in any combined private and government organizations, which is what this wireless was originally set up for and failed. It's not what we're trying to get you to do.
All right.
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Easy. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Anyone else? We'll close the public comment portion of this meeting and bring it back to reports of members of the board. Mr. Rizzi.
I have no prepared remarks, just to respond to Mr. Veazey. I guess I have looked at that company as well and understand what they're doing. I think there does need to be a review of, and this is more for the county, but to look at how we classify these new systems. And there has to be, and the fee isn't to milk people for money. I just want to make you clear that that's to cover the cost of the administration part, so there's no charge to the taxpayers for those people getting that service. And you always got to put that twist on things, I know, but that's not the case. But we ought to look at, there's a number of things that need to be looked at, because you just don't want poles just spotting up everywhere. We ought to have some control and regulation over them. Part of the problem that this firm has had is that's exactly what they would like to do, is go down the street, find 30 people and put up a pole without regulation or without any oversight. It may sound like a great solution, but we have to look at it from a county standpoint. What do they look like? What are we doing to the visibility here? What's the liability? What if they fall over during a tornado? What kind of things? What safety issues? And making sure we're not blocking ingress, egress for fire, rescue, and the rest of that. Where you place these poles, that's why we have setbacks and that, and it all needs to be looked at. So I think it would be something worthwhile looking at. I'm not opposed to it, and I do agree that the solution in the rural areas will be wireless with the new technology that's coming online. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Sit down.
I think at the first of the year, we definitely need to sit down and take a serious look at what we can do to
Can you put your
improve.
mic closer, please? Thanks.
Can you hear me now? I think at the first of the year, we need to sit down and take a serious look and look at some things in the past of how we operated with the wireless authority and see what we can do to be more business friendly for somebody to come in and operate this. I think it's something we seriously need to look at.
Well, I thank Warren for coming and bringing forward what success the group has been having. This group has really proven to be a wonderful think tank. The citizens are definitely engaged and involved in the research and bringing forth information at each of the meetings, whether it pertains to grants, to the capabilities of today's technology, to different prospective companies. And since Warren shared everything with you, I don't need to reiterate it. I also was going to bring forward that we should consider at least reviewing all of our current permitting structure pertaining to this, as well as our ordinances. And if any other citizens are interested in joining this group to participate in the discussion, their next meeting is January 6th at 6 p.m. at the Smoot Library.
Anything else? Thank you, John.
Yes. Thank you, Warren, and your group. I think it's very necessary information for the people to get involved in what this county should have, okay, for the wireless authority. And for that information, that providing that everything's going more wireless than what's, buried cable in that, an overhead cable in that. Also, Joe brought up some other good points about, setbacks and interference with but again, what this board in this government, local government, should not be a hindrance to what's brought into the rural communities in that. Again, it's something that's very needed, and it's more of a necessity nowadays than everyone needing connections in that. It's not a luxury anymore to have the connections, because, as you say, with that one example, so many things nowadays are being pushed to have you go online. Even I noticed for like federal retirees, they want more done online than having you call over the phone and that. So again, it's more of a necessity as each year we move along. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, and Joe pointed out the current ordinance was written for cell towers. So Warren, I think you were on the same page as far as what the purpose was. The motivation's a little different thing, as Joe pointed out, is to cover the cost of making sure that is a safe structure, a well-built structure that meets building code. But that is really a matter for the Board of Supervisors to come back and take a look at that, not for the wireless. We've talked about the limited authority of the wireless authority in the past. The other piece is we talked at our last meeting about standing up a technology committee within the county to look at all options, not just wireless options, but certainly wireless options that's a broader set of choices other than what the wireless authority can really look at. So I think we're on the same page with what we're trying to do there. Appreciate you with the reminder this evening, and we'll ask Jack to take a look at that and bring back some recommendations to us about how we can still take care of those concerns, EMI being one of them. It's certainly an important thing. We put a bunch of towers and shut down our network with fire and rescue, or vice versa. That's not a good solution. So there's a lot of interoperability things that have to be taken into account. Certainly the structural piece, the access, we all know that. So we'll take a look at that. I think we can be practical as we look at that as well. So thanks for reminding us of that tonight. We don't have a consent agenda, right, tonight, Travis? No. There's no other items on the agenda for the wireless authority tonight. Any topics from the board members here? If not, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Just I'm
Sorry.
sorry, Mr. Chairman, just one
We
brief
pulled the
item.
trigger.
Just one brief item. The Virginia broadband bankruptcy litigation that's been ongoing, there was a hearing scheduled for yesterday. That was continued to January, so I do not have an update on the substance of the litigation, just a status hearing update. I'll hope to have more to report in January or February. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Now we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Motion made and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. We are adjourned. So at this time, we'll call to order the regular meeting of the King George County Board of Supervisors. Travis, any amendments to the agenda for the board meeting?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Supervisors would welcome you to the podium at this time. Just ask that you please identify yourself with your name and address. Sorry for the confusion earlier.
No, second time's apparently a little bit more luck. Again, my name is Patrick Henry. I'm an attorney with the Mars Law Firm, and I'm here on behalf of my client, Brooks and Company General Contractors. And this is in regards to agenda item 12-14, which is an appeal from the decision of the county administrator. This relates to the county courthouse renovation project, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with. Before you tonight, there is two claims within this appeal. The first claim is rather large. It's for about $42,500, give or take, and we submitted a written explanation, and I believe you should have that in front of you. This centers around the contract and corresponding documents for this project. The contract and specifications provided that certain materials would be on site and could be reused. Unfortunately, those materials were not there. So Brooks bid the project on the assumption and belief based on the contract documents and specs that these materials would be there. When they showed up to do the work, they weren't there. So they had to assume a lot more cost and labor to complete this project. Now, this additional materials and additional work were well beyond the scope of what they contracted for, the deal they signed with King George County. Now, while this was going on, they were in constant communication with the architect, the engineer, and also with the county representatives. Now, beyond the materials, there was also a couple other issues there was no scope of work specified in a couple areas, and again, all this was communicated with the representatives. So this work that needed to be undertaken to complete the project was outside their scope. Now, at that point, Brooks and Company could have made a decision. They could have said, you know what, we're not doing the work. They could have said, we're not going to complete the project, and forced this into litigation at that point. They didn't want to go that route. They chose to communicate, request a change order, and then hope that this board would do the right thing and make them whole. Now, again, this was not a surprise that this occurred. The whole time they communicated with the county representatives, and this is not an uncommon occurrence in the construction industry. A lot of times, this happens all the time in private enterprise. You contract, then it turns out something's changed, so you enter into a change order. And all that's been proposed here is that change order be issued and granted. The county administrator has denied that request, and we come on appeal to the board. Now, Brooks simply requests this matter be addressed when it's addressed in a closed session, that you consider the documents before you. We believe the contract interpretation is actually very simple. The documents suggest the items can be reused, which is the basis of their proposal. If those items don't exist, they can't be reused, and therefore additional costs were required. Again, I'll keep it brief tonight, but that's the basic gist here. Is we're here on a simple change order. Work that was not in the contract documents, materials that were not part of the contract needed to be done. Brooks has provided that service to the county and simply asked to be reimbursed for those costs that were expended in completing the project. The second claim that is part of this appeal is actually much smaller, and that's only for $459. And that again is a similar situation that arose where certain work was not specified in the plans. There was no specs for it. So they bid the project to do the work that was provided in the contract and in the specs. This additional work that needed to be done, they again did it upon consultation with the county representatives and the architect. They did it so the project could get completed. So we wouldn't have been in a litigation phase a year ago or 8 months ago. At that point, we could have stopped, and Brooks and Company could have stopped and said, hey, take us to court to get this done. They didn't do that. They chose to do the right thing. They respect the county. They enjoy doing work for the county. But these two projects combined, or these two claims, it's a lot of money. That's nearly $43,000, give or take, that Brooks and Company expended to complete this project. And again, this was well beyond their obligations under the contract. And again, I think it's really important to note that this wasn't a surprise they tried to throw at the last minute. They immediately contacted the architect for requests for more information to certify what was going on, and contacted the county immediately when they realized this was going to be an issue. And I think it's important to consider, not just in a legal sense, but as an ethical sense, that they chose to do the right thing at that point, to do the work, to not have this project be delayed. And we'd ask that the board evaluate our written submission in that context and we respectfully request that the change order be granted, that the Board of Supervisors vote to pay the requested change orders. And we don't foresee the need for this to go to court, which it may have to if it isn't resolved tonight. And we think that's a waste of taxpayers' resources, Brooks and Company's resources, and it's not in the best interest of my client or of the board. So I thank you for your consideration, and again, we respectfully request that the board vote to pay the requested change orders.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Henry. Anyone else? Welcome.
Hi, my name is Mary Trout, and I'm a resident of the Shiloh District. I'm here for two things. First thing concerning Project Faith. I know right now it's in the middle of, they're requesting a dismissal, and I've done all I can do as far as, and two things in King George, if you want to find out what's going on, either go to church or read the newspaper, and I do both. So if there's somebody that can tell me where that process is at, I think King George needs to put that monster to bed. That organization has had fraud, and I won't even go to all the other matters that King George, I'm very grateful, have tried to take care of this, but it's a waste of the county money where it could be going to other matters. Another thing I'm here for, too, is the fracking issue. I never knew what fracking was. I thought it was a social media terminology until I read it in the paper. I actually did had to look it up. I attended the meeting that was in Bowling Green. I unfortunately was not able to attend the meeting in Montrose. I really want King George to take this seriously, because just as myself as a private citizen that owns property on a private road with having open water access running through my property, I myself have a very personal interest in this. I want to know how it's going to affect the private roads. Am I going to have to give up the right for the private road for public domain? What's going to happen with the open water source that runs through my property? A good length of it, it's Kings Mill Creek. Just the noise alone. We have a noise ordinance that King George right now, I know, tassels back and forth on how many decibels, what's barking, what's not, farm equipment. How are we even going to deal with this? And also, too, even how far from the property lines. Right now, I'll be able to walk, if I trespass through a couple other lots, to my closest drilling. And it's all over Shiloh. Ingleside Winery, now granted they're in Westmoreland, but they brag about how their tourism and their winery is private and secluded and back to nature. They've leased their property. And I'm not even going to go into the many county and the founding families here in King George that are giving up this right. We are here to stay. The demographics of King George is changing. It won't be the good old boys anymore. A lot of new people are coming in and are retiring here. In the next 10 to 15 years, it won't be the 10 founding families, as I've coined the phrase, running the county. It is EPA issues and there's legal issues. And me, myself, I am pursuing with the Friends of the Rappahannock River as far as providing a town hall meeting. I myself will financially support that to rent a room if, for whatever reason, they can't find something that's free of charge for them to hold a public meeting. But if Bowling Green and Westmoreland is entitled to that, and they did that at the spur of the moment, King George will also be given that opportunity as well, and I have promised that. Oh, and also, I do have one question for my supervisor, Mr. Brooks. I would like to contact you, but you use a private email address, and I just don't find that appropriate if I'm going to be addressing you as a private citizen about King George matters, sending anything to a private email address.
That's the one I've had for years. That's the one that you reached me at.
Okay, but I understand you're on the Board of Supervisors, and there are other Board of Supervisors who have a King George Board of Supervisor government address, and I guess I'm asking my question to you. Why don't you have one?
And we're not going to enter into a debate with that right now, but we thank you for your input. Thank you.
I will never be addressing anybody on public matters to a private email address. If you're a government representative and you're voted by the people, I will be emailing you to a public address, never to a private address.
Can you give me your number?
Thank you for your input. Anyone else? And none, we'll close the public comment portion of tonight's meeting and bring it back to reports of members of the board. Mr. Grzika.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to do my prepared remarks, and then I do want to address a couple of the comments tonight. On the 4th of December, I chaired the Rappahannock River Basin Commission meeting held at the Capitol in Richmond. Stormwater management and waste and water availability and quality were key items discussed. On the 6th of December, I attended the meeting of the Rappahannock United Way Finance and Phase 5 committees. On the 11th of December, I attended a meeting of the Fredericksburg Regional Alliance Finance and Transition Committees. We're in the process of finding a new president for the FRA as we prepare for the retirement of Gene Bailey. That evening, I attended the annual Green Gala hosted by Marstel Day. This is an excellent event that takes time to recognize people and entities making a positive difference in the area. On the 12th of December, I chaired the Board of Directors meeting at the Rappahannock United Way. The RUW is in the heart of the annual campaign. I remind and request everyone consider making a donation to the Rappahannock United Way. Your donation will help move families in our region out of poverty into a self-sustaining and productive position in our community. That afternoon, I attended the annual Christmas luncheon of the county employees. Amanda did a great job in organizing the event, and Marcy and the others worked with her to make it a success. On the 16th, I attended a special meeting of the Board of Directors of the Fredericksburg Regional Alliance. Following that meeting, I attended a meeting of the Board of Directors for the George Washington Regional Commission. The main focus for this meeting was the financial position and ensuring the stability of the financial positioning of the Commission going forward in concert with a work plan for the region. This afternoon, I attended the annual Sheriff's Office recognition luncheon. On the item of the fracking, I just would like to let you know that we have requested that the county attorney pull all county ordinances and regulations and look into the authorities that the state has allowed the locality to have. And we'll be entertaining bringing others. There's two main agencies involved at the state level, DMME, Department of Mines and Minerals, and then DEQ. So as we get into that issue, we're going to look at it. I know we all worry about it, and I'm still in the exploration and understanding time, doing a little bit of analysis, trying to sort out reality to get to science, because I am concerned about the aquifer, which is the water that we all depend on and drink. And so that's a primary focus area and one that we have to guard at all expense. So we're going to have to take a look at that. But I want to understand all the issue before I take a formal position. So thank you.
If I could, folks, I could ask to pause our public conversation. I wanted to do a recognition before we got started with our board report, and I didn't think to do that. So, John, could I ask you to join me down at the podium, please? So I intended to do this before we got started with the reports. So tonight we want to recognize John for his service to King George County. Tonight's his last meeting with us after 4 years on the Board of Supervisors as the James Monroe District representative. Over the last 4 years, we've enjoyed working with John. Proud now to be able to call him a friend, and we've been through a lot of overcome a lot of obstacles, been through a lot of things here in the last 4 years, and working to serve King George County. So, John, we wanted to make sure that all of King George recognizes you for your service, that as a board, we have a chance to say thanks for sitting up here and putting up with some long nights with all of us, and wish you well in all your endeavors going forward. So, John, thank you so much. Congratulations, and we wish you well.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who I've met and worked with, on so many issues, and just speaking with. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm still going to continue a lot of volunteer efforts, in the county and in the region in that. And It's been just such a pleasure. So, and we'll be turning back over to Jim to take the seat over in that, and just wish him well in it. This is a great community. It's like a family, okay? Just as I remember seeing at the wake for the sheriff's daughter and that, this community just comes together just so well in that. Even with all the new people that move in that, it's really like a giant neighborhood. So thank you again, all of you. And it was a pleasure serving for you in that. Thanks again.
Well, thank you for allowing me to mix up the order of events there a little bit, and thanks a lot, John. So, Sidell, back to you, please, for your report.
First, I'd like to say to John, it's been a pleasure working with you this past 4 years. And John, I think a lot of people don't know how deep your heart runs. I think you're a very kind-hearted person and really had the best interests of the county at hand. And we wish you well, because you've had some obstacles you had to face with your health, but yet through it all you made it, so we wish you Godspeed as you go forward. It's been a blessing to work with you the past 4 years. On last Thursday, we attended the county luncheon. Christmas luncheon was very nice, as always, put together by the staff. It was a great event. Also today, we attended a luncheon at the Sheriff's Department, our annual awards luncheon. And last Tuesday, we were at the Social Services meeting. To Mrs. Trout, in reference to the email, maybe I don't know what the difference between a regular email and county email is, but if you were able to reach me by my email, I don't understand what the issue is, but I'll be glad to talk to you about it, to see if we can't come to a conclusion on that. And so far as this fracking deal, we do plan next year, at the beginning of the year, to have a town meeting in the Shiloh district to talk about this, to show how it affects all of us. But so far as the email, I'll be glad to talk with you by phone about whatever your issue is. And I think you should have my phone number. That was public information as well.
Ma'am, we're not, this is a board report time. We're not going to enter into any conversation at this time. Thank you. The way we operate, you have your opportunity for comment, and this is the opportunity for the board to provide their comment. So if you'd like to discuss with Mr. Brooks, you can certainly do that offline.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Bravo?
On the 11th, I attended the fracking information meeting held at the Town Hall Center in Bowling Green. This was a well-attended event as it was standing room only. As we have already tasked the county attorney with reviewing our ordinance, I would like to suggest we consider requesting the Planning Commission consider amending our comprehensive plan. I apologize for not having handed this out earlier. This is a sample copy provided to me by Rockingham County. It is a sample for us to simply look at and consider. And just something else, another piece of the puzzle for us to take a look at as we're dealing with this fracking issue. Just want to make residents aware that the original meeting held through the Friends of the Rappahannock River was all in reference to hydraulic fracturing. In yesterday's Northern Neck News, the president of Shore Exploration commented that they could consider nitrogen fracking. This involves less water usage and less chemicals, although it still uses chemicals. I haven't done enough research as of yet to determine if there is less liabilities and exposure involved with those chemicals. On the 12th, I had the opportunity to have lunch with the elected official from Colorado, who was the guest speaker for the town hall meeting in Bowling Green, and the two attorneys from the Southern Environmental Law Center to further discuss mitigating the impacts of fracking to a locality. And again, I typed up my notes from the actual meeting in Bowling Green and from my luncheon, and just wanted to be able to afford each of you a copy of that for your own reference. The notes in parentheses are simply my own personal questions that I thought maybe we should consider getting answers to. And earlier today, I attended the Sheriff's Awards Luncheon. It was very interesting to listen to the stories and reports of the different cases that the different deputies were being recognized for. And it was great for me to actually know exactly which deputies was able to solve the auto break-ins that were occurring in my own neighborhood. So they're definitely want to thank them for all they do to keep our community safe. That's all I have. Thank you.
John?
Yes, I'll start out with over last week's employee recognition holiday luncheon and that, which was very well attended, and it went very well. And I'd just like to thank everyone who came out and participated and helped in that. It was that went well. And today, the sheriff's luncheon and awards. It was very interesting to listen to many of the comments and stories of, attached to each of the awards. In that they, so there was reasoning done behind picking each one who stood out for those awards. In that, and it sort of shows how much this county and the sheriff's department has moved forward, and the need for that building there, that where they held that luncheon today is the training room, and it's been used quite often in that for its purposes in that. And again, I'd just like to mention on this fracking issue. This board and members of the county have spoken with our senators and our delegate and at the VACO meetings, and it does come down to the state becoming involved, and you need the state involved in this issue in order to give localities the proper authority that comes down from the Dillon rule. In that, because it's going to affect not beyond individual property lines, but also jurisdiction lines beyond counties in that, because our underground aquifer flows from west to east. So if anything done here in this county is going to flow down through the entire northern neck in that. And something like this can affect property values and the sustainability of life itself, for water. So you really have to, even if you're for property rights, have to understand how far the issue goes beyond those individual rights. And that's what you have to really protect the rights of everyone involved, because it's so important to have a good quality for your water. So it's going to become a bigger issue as we get into this next year or two, and everyone has to really understand all the information that comes out before they make their decisions. And again, I just like to thank everyone I've worked with. And one thing you have to understand when you're in politics on a board, whether it's at the local, regional, state, or even national, and I've got to kind of want to punctuate that, because no matter how much you might disagree on an issue, at the end of the day, you should be able to get along with those people and still work with them. I remember at the national level years ago when I lived up in Northern Virginia, people got together after work, and that's where a lot of decisions were made. And this board, even if you disagree on an issue, you still should remain friends afterwards. And I believe we do that very well here at this level. And on a regional base, I've seen to our neighboring counties. And I just want to pass that along, that's something that really needs to continue, to work and to work with the people in answering them in that. Sometimes, I've got to say, sometimes our email hasn't always been working properly, so we haven't gotten your emails. So it's not a matter of, no, we were ignoring you. We were having problems with the system. So I've always tried to get back to the public as soon as I am able to. And I thank everyone for their help, and it's been a real pleasure. And I will do anything that I possibly can in the future that may need extra help in that. So thank you again, and thank you for your understanding for my missing the last 2 meetings also. I had to get some necessary health taken care of, and that's going to be my first priority in this coming year. So thank you again, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year, and God bless.
All right, thanks, John. A few items to report on, and then at the end of that, I'd like to recap our 2013, the things that we've worked on this year. First, wanted to highlight the ribbon cutting event that took place at Bell Grove on December 6th, and congratulate Brett and Michelle Darnell on getting their bed and breakfast up and running. They've built a great establishment there, and I really hope they get a steady stream of customers to reward them for their efforts. I think we're going to have a picture for this next one here. On December 10th to the 12th, I traveled to Appleton, Wisconsin with members of King George Fire and Rescue for the acceptance testing on our new Engine 11. Went along with Kevin Rem, Kevin Cook, and Mike Hirsch. These guys really displayed an immense amount of knowledge and professionalism and going through the acceptance testing on a nearly $600,000 piece of equipment. So it's important that before this type of equipment becomes county property, that we know what we're getting, and that's what's written into the contract, and that organization, the company that we're buying this from, and whoever that is, they bring our folks in, and that's a normal course of action. But there's a picture of Engine 11 for you. I don't know which company that's going to go to yet. I think Company 1. But anyway, it looks warm and sunny outside. It was 5 when we took that picture. 3 days in Appleton, Wisconsin. The highest temperature was 8. So anyway, they're completing final punch list items on that truck now. They'll ship it to the vendor, the dealer, distributor, whatever the right term is in Virginia, and then they'll make a final delivery to us. But a neat opportunity to really spend some time with our fire and rescue folks, and 3 days worth of getting to hear their concerns and what's working well, and how we can better help them do their jobs. But just outstanding folks. There were about 100 fire trucks in process at this factory, with firefighters from all over the country and really the world coming in and out of there. So that was a good to compare to how some other localities, big and small, around the nation are addressing the challenge of providing equipment for their fire and rescue teams. So there's some new ideas I got out of that as well that we can apply here. So anyway, wanted to just give a big thanks to our fire and rescue folks for what they're doing to make that happen, because they're really going above and beyond. They're providing a lot of technical expertise in making this happen. Because of that trip, I was unable to attend the Employees Appreciation Christmas Luncheon on the 12th, and would like to thank Joe, John, and Sadell for speaking on behalf of the board. Along with Joe, I participated in the George Washington Regional Commission meeting last night. We really used that as a work session to address the budget and the fiscal solvency of the organization. So we're really working to drive to some new fiscal models that will allow us regionally to use the GWRC to provide really combined staffing and resources that as individual counties we're not going to be able to have. So I think there's some benefit there that we can really reap from that. Relative to fracking, it's certainly something that we need to be concerned about. It's something we need to be educated about. But we also need to pay attention to the facts, because I think there's a lot of discussion going on and making assumptions that don't involve the facts. So our job is to get all of those first. We've asked Eric, as has been pointed out, to provide an assessment of our county ordinances, and what the special exception process dictates relative to allowing such a thing in King George, and anything that would have to happen along those lines, we've got to be in the loop. But we may need to tighten those things up too. We've been working with Margaret Ranson to get the Director of Mining Minerals Engineer in here, as Joe had pointed out. So it'll certainly be up to the incoming chairman to build that into the agenda as they see fit. But we've made that individual Mr. Spangler available to come have that discussion here in King George. So look forward to that in the January timeframe as the incoming chair sees fit. But I really want to emphasize that we need to stick to the facts. And then regarding the Sheriff's Award lunch today, I was unable to attend that, so I do want to congratulate all the folks that were recognized there. I had to go to D.C. at the last minute today. So like I said, finally, I'd like to close tonight's meeting with a recap of 2013. It's been an utmost honor to serve as chairman of this board this year. This is my third opportunity to do so in 10 years on the Board of Supervisors. As those who have served in this capacity can well understand, conducting meetings from the chairman's seat provides a whole different perspective. Trying to stay engaged and involved in the efforts while we make sure that we have appropriate decorum and the procedural side of the meeting is always a challenge. Much easier in the third time around than it was in the first time around. I think we tackled some fairly tough topics throughout the year. We certainly had our fair share of debates, as we should have as a 5-member board. If there was no need for debate, then I guess we could have a one-member elected body. I believe that ultimately King George County is in a better place today than when we started this deal back in January. There's more work to do, as there will be at the end of every year, but we're certainly in a better place than we were at the start of the year. So with that, I'd like to share some of the accomplishments that have resulted from our efforts and really from the efforts of our very talented and dedicated county staff, and also through the help of all you, the great citizens of King George. So if you allow me to switch files here, let me get to this, because the list is pretty lengthy, but I think it's important to share all of them. And for our interested press at the table, I'll provide you an electronic copy of this as well. So let me get started here. So our 2013 accomplishments. We prepared operating capital budgets that maintained and expanded services to our county residents with no increase in tax rates and no reduction in benefits to our county employees. And with the budget situation we face this year, that is quite an accomplishment. We maintained our bond ratings, which really underwrites our fiscal success. The county and the Service Authority both received the Government Financial Officers Association Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 12 to 13 budget. That's the 10th year in a row, and that offers up a level of transparency and solvency for our county. We commenced the current 4-year reassessment process and established a Board of Equalization. We've certainly been on top of our contract with Waste Management to ensure that we're handling that resource appropriately. And dealing with all the permitted and contracted requirements associated with that operation. We're continuing construction and renovations to Potomac Elementary School, so we've got that launched, and really a key part of our education system there at Potomac and getting that up to snuff. We awarded a construction contract for renovations to the former auto auction area for use as a vehicle maintenance facility, and that's now started and underway. I guess that would be the same thing, right? If it started, it's got to be underway. We completed construction of the construction was completed of the Angel Court Community Development Block Grant Project. We're really on the periphery of that. We completed construction of the Smoot Library Expansion Project. So the Smoot Library is up and operational, as you know. We commenced renovations and repairs on Company 3. We had a report on that last week. That's coming along very well, really for a very affordable price. We completed the courthouse renovation project, including the installation of security equipment, and now we're working with the sheriff to get 2 new positions funded to utilize those renovations. We completed stabilization work at Ralph Bunch School, and are working closely with the Ralph Bunch committee that's been established and the Ralph Bunch Alumni Association for proper use for that facility. We substantially completed construction at Shiloh Park, and if you haven't seen that, that is coming along very well. The access road we were able to get funded through a recreational access road grant from VDOT, and that's got a lot of benefits outside of just the park usage. That road going into that area has been problematic for some time, so that's taken care of that. I was over there this past weekend. It's a really good benefit out of that project. Another big news story there. I mean that is no longer a landfill. That's fully excavated. Converted land, and really the first one in the state that's been used in that way. The Service Authority completed design and began construction on the Fairview Beach Water System Improvement Project, as John appropriately called out tonight in his report. This project will provide a new well treatment system and 225,000 gallons of storage for the Fairview Beach and Potomac Landing communities, important capacity for our system. We commenced the joint land use study for all the activities that go on at Dahlgren, and that's includes multiple counties with us really in the lead role. Dominion Power commenced construction of the new Dahlgren transmission line, and we'll get a report on that tonight. James Beasley here with us tonight to provide a report on that. Parks and Rec transitioned its registration software package and updated their ability to, for our citizens anyway, to sign up for programs. And it does increase the usage of website there, so along the lines of what Warren was pointing out. But we agree with you. Parks and Rec conducted 12 special events, and we had a 20% increase in soccer participation. The King George Little League held its District 15 girls softball tournament at Sealston Sports Complex back in the summer, and that's important because it also represents an increase in our in capability of our facilities, because we didn't always have the facilities to allow that to happen. So instead of our citizens traveling all over the country for that tournament to happen and happen here. We completed a draft of our stormwater management ordinance, and if you were here for that discussion, how we handle stormwater is going to really be a critical issue for King George and all counties. Huge requirement placed upon us by the EPA and through the General Assembly, and well, really this General Assembly is working to address the EPA requirements. Amanda Samuel, our HR director, created an employee newsletter and has really worked hard with our employees. We continued coordination of a volunteer fair. That's been, I know, a big hit throughout the county. We hired a new county attorney. Eric's welcome aboard. We're coming up on a year. Robin is our finance director, and Linwood is our director of economic development. So those are all things that happened this year. Brad Hudson, our building official, was elected co-chair of Region 7 Building Code Official Association. Brad, that was you that was elected in that capacity, right? We implemented a mobile mapping software for the Department of Emergency Management. That's an important tool for our folks in the fire and rescue community to be able to respond when you have a need. We formed the county attorney's office under Eric Gregory in February, and that has created a great capability for us. We've been working with Linwood Thomas, our new economic development director, on some major business initiatives, and we've had 2 business announcements here this year and 1 groundbreaking, and there's a lot of other things in the works. We completed the economic development website upgrade. Again, another important need for high-speed net service through whatever form it arrives, right? We conducted our annual business appreciation event and also hosted a breakfast forum focused on tourism. Our EMS team responded to a total of 3,135 calls, had over 1,600 transports, and 19 medevac patients, just out of a county of just over 24,000 citizens. You've seen our new Engine 11 pumper replacement. That'll be here soon. We received a Storm Ready certification and a designation that was reissued by the National Weather Service. I imagine we'll have another presentation of that here at some point. And we were awarded $600,000 in assistance for a firefighter grant for upgraded communication and radios relative to interoperability. And I realized that was a lengthy list, and I even left off 4 or 5 things there for the name of time. But I think it's important to point out, because as you're cranking through the year, you sometimes lose sight of the bigger picture. That this stuff all comes together, these contributions all come together to better the community, to better our county, to make us more capable, allow us to provide services. And there were 44 items on this list. Items 2 through 44 happened while at the same time, as I pointed out in item 1, we did that with no tax increase and a balanced budget. So that's important to note. So with that, I'll close out.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
One last thing. I'd just like to mention, I remember you were in Ruby were at the VACO annual meeting, as I was, but there were 2 vendors at the VACO meeting that made me very proud of what we've done in this county. And I just want to, I brought back a copy to give Travis for the county, and one to give to Mr. Benson for the school system. And as large as our screen there was this picture up behind one of the vendors of our new stadium and playing field. And one of the other vendors had it on digital that switched back between two others in that. And so it was very proud to see, taking pride in what we have here in the county. And they were making note of how well this, the county acquired it for the price we did, and the payback period is only about 9.5 years in that. So, and as we move forward, we should think about, the point of around 10 to 12 years, what's going to be necessary to either improve it or replace it and that. But to see this type of recognition given to the county when it's all the counties in the state are standing there, are going around in that makes you very proud of what we have. So that's I wanted to make sure. I didn't know if anyone had mentioned that because I did not make the meeting. That was right after that meeting.
All right, thanks, John. So with that, I'll close my comment in the board comment period. At this time, entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries. Do we have any constitutional officers present this evening? Seeing none. Eric, Porter County Attorney?
No report at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor to Mr. James Beasley from Dominion Virginia Power to provide us with an update on the Dahlgren Transmission Main Project, which progress has been fast and furious there.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, board members, my name is James Beasley. I'm with Dominion. I'm going to provide you a quick update about the Dahlgren Transmission Project. First slide is, I think we've all seen this map, but this is a map of the State Corporation Commission approved route. The starting point is about a mile east of here. Ties into an existing 230 kV transmission line that runs west to east. And it makes its way down to the naval base. It's approximately in length about 9.4 miles. About a year ago, as the chairman mentioned, we received approval for this project by the State Corporation Commission. Shortly thereafter, we started acquiring easements from the landowners around the corridor. In the spring of 2013, we started actually the construction process of the clearing of the corridor. We have cleared approximately 1,500 feet per week. It was slow going during the summer. It was a very wet summer, but we were able to make up the progress on that. And as of, I believe, Friday, we have completed the clearing process, and we've also completed the substation site as well. Next couple of slides to show you the clearing process itself. As we go forward from the clearing process, we have already started to lay down foundations. The foundations are a large metal cylinder that is pushed into the ground at 35 to 40 feet. It's important to note there's no drilling or blasting associated with pushing it down into the ground. Pictures of our foundations, that's the start where it's starting to be pushed down into the ground, and that is when we have completed that process. The next phase will be, we're going to be taking the towers and bringing them onto the corridor, building them on the corridor itself, and then erecting them into place onto the foundations. Then after that, after they've been erected, we will be stringing the conductors, and then it will be we'll be jumping around at that phase. So we'll be we'll be doing one Phase A, and then we'll jump to Phase C, and then we'll go back to Phase B and Phase A. So you'll see us jumping around the corridor. Just wanted to update you on the ending of the end process of Dahlgren Substation. As you can see, I don't know if you can see toward the right, but there's a red line that goes around the box. That's the fence outline of the substation. And the blue is actually the substation footprint, and the lines coming in are from the left of the screen going into the wooded area of the substation. We are very lucky to have a substation footprint that actually has, we're able to use existing trees on 3 sides of the substation, and we will be placing a heavy vegetation on the front end of that substation, and the majority of the plants will be evergreens as well. A schematic of the substation, you have the lines coming into the bottom of the substation, and then it goes and it's divided out into the 3 phases, and then it goes on to supply electricity to businesses and residential areas. Sound levels, I think the board is well aware of this the scale, but some of the residents around Potomac Drive had some concerns about noise levels. So with that, we did some sound modeling, and around 60 is normal conversations that a person will have. Right in the center of that substation is about 64 decibels, and then as you start fanning out, it becomes quieter. I do think that once you have the vegetation there and then the screening, I really think the noise is really going to be self-contained onto that substation. It's also important to note that's during a high load sound modeling is what we kind of pictured it would be a high load day. So it's your typical hot summer months and your cold winter months when you're really going to have noise. So it's not really going to be noisy all the time. And then as the chair mentioned earlier, the high school, because of the impacts of the line coming close to this historical school, we worked with the county, and we have applied with the state, with the Department of Historical Resources, the application actually today. So we expect to hear back from them late January or February, back from the state, and then we can go forward with the mitigation process. So that concludes my presentation. Just to let you know, for your constituents, we update the webpage on a weekly basis. So if anyone has any questions, you can always address it to me, but you can also go on the website and just www.dom.com and then do Dahlgren transmission on the keyword search, and it will pop up on the webpage, and we update that pretty regularly.
Well, James, really appreciate you taking the time to come out here tonight. I know the progress has been really remarkable, and thought it'd be important for you to come share with our citizens how the project's coming along. The story that I've been telling everyone is that, and I want to make sure that we're communicating this properly, is that this really provides a level of redundancy and service for the Dahlgren district that's been needed for some time. It addresses some additional demand requirements for the base, but also serves the general population of the county in providing that redundancy. Is that an accurate way to characterize
Absolutely. You're spot on. This is actually providing capacity for the residential and businesses, and then the secondary is also the military base as well on site. So it's absolutely going to be benefiting the citizens of the county. I forgot to mention one thing. It will be completed. We have a target by May of 2014. So it's fast approaching. We will be complete with this project.
Must be a heck of a hydraulic ram that's driving those big cylinders that deep into the ground.
Yeah.
I saw one of them in operation today, so that's pretty impressive. All right.
If I may, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman.
Yep.
First of all, I want to thank you so much for the staff that came and attended my town hall meeting, and through that, you did the decibel study, you
Right.
created the vegetative landscaping. Really appreciate you addressing all of their needs, all of their concerns, and yes, we too are very hopeful that that vegetative landscape will minimize the noise, keeping our fingers crossed. That being said, I get a lot of inquiries from residents in the Dahlgren district wanting to know, with the new substation, can we expect that there would be less power outages
That's the plan.
Okay.
Hopefully that will be the plan to provide greater reliability.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Barring any big major.
I understand that. I understand, but
hurricanes
right
and
now,
stuff like that.
the wind blows and power's out, so.
It just, well, honestly, it just depends on where they are. It's a tough question to ask, when you get down to individual type cases, but hopefully this will provide greater reliability. Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then I did have, yesterday, a citizen contact me to inquire, because they've noticed the great swath of land that has been cleared on 301 for the transmission line. The question was, is there any way possible, is it allowed, feasible, to run a pedestrian bike path along that transmission route, since it's already been cleared?
We can certainly talk about that, about trails, if you would like to, after, offline.
Okay.
And see what, I don't know how transmission feels, and work on that, but we definitely can investigate that and report back to you on that.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Well, that land, are you purchasing ownership or right of ways?
I mean, we're purchasing right away,
Right.
so it
Yes,
just
you
depends.
don't own the land.
We
from one
don't
to
own the
other.
land,
I mean,
right.
that's privately owned land.
Right.
Right, but first question would be whether or not Dominion would even allow that near their transmission lines. Then there's no point in moving forward with property owners.
I'll have to go back and talk to him about that. That's some out of my expertise, but we can get that answered.
Anything else for James?
Yeah,
John?
yes, I'd just like to thank you for that alternate consideration for the Ralph Bunch, from the Ralph Bunch committee, for the alternative consideration for rather than the trees. And that was very good of you and your company to move in that direction. So thank you again.
All right. Well, thank you for spending your evening with us.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. Y'all have a great
Great job, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Andrew Grossnickel again to talk about our annual audit. Thanks for hanging in there with us, Andrew.
No problem. It's an earlier night than last night. Town of Vienna's meeting didn't start till 8 p.m. And then I had Northern Virginia traffic coming home. So
we can promise. I think we can promise you no traffic getting out of the courthouse anyway.
yes, sir. Just going to go through a couple of the highlights of the county side of the finances for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2013, and then open up for any questions or comments the board may have. Again, I won't kind of go too far in depth into some of the elements of the CAFR that are presented that are similar to the authority. This report actually has 3 independent auditors' reports in it. The 2 that I referenced earlier, the independent auditor's report and the government auditing standards or yellow book opinion, and again, those were unmodified or good reports with no significant deficiencies, material weaknesses, and controls. And then there's a 3rd report for federal expenditures, federal awards, OMB Circular A133 compliance, and that's on page 131, just for your reference, in the back of the compliance section. And that's just localities that expend over $500,000 in federal awards, which the county does every year. We have to go through testing on major programs for compliance issues. We did not have any issues with compliance with the major programs that we tested in 2013. So another good report. We did have a couple management letter comments and recommendations. Those are in the very front. I inserted that letter in the very front of your bound CAFR, but it's loose, but it's in the front if you just kind of look behind the cover. Couple comments, one related to just making sure that credit card purchases are always supported by detailed credit card receipts. It's just something that always has to be policed and just to ensure that the purchases made therein are appropriate use of funds and no alcohol and all those kind of good things. It's easy when you go to a restaurant to only get the detail, the summary version, but when it's something like that and we deal with it at our work too, we have to inquire and make sure we get that detail so we can show what's been purchased. So we had in our sample, we just had a few instances of non-detailed, and so just always something that's good to remind the staff to continue to police that and monitor that in accordance with your policy, which does address that. The second item, the bank reconciliation process, there was improvements made during fiscal year 13. There are still areas for a continued improvement, and just keeping that on the forefront of the Treasurer's Office list of important items to address. Just continuing to make that as efficient and as accurate and timely of a process as possible. So again, those were the couple items that we wanted to bring to your attention as management, comments and recommendations for improvement from our fiscal year 13 audit. Just wanted to highlight a couple of the financial highlights of the year. Again, there are the transmittal letter and MD&A and all those good pieces that are in this report. And this report, as well as the Service Authority report, will be as they are each year, submitted to GFOA. Robin is working on that application. This was Robin, obviously, her first year as a full-time finance director, and she was very helpful in going through the audit process and all of those items. Exhibit 1 on page number 19 is just where I want to start with a couple highlights. This is the statement of net position. Again, change from net assets to net position. This puts the governmental activities on the same basis as enterprise activities, and basically closer to the same basis as public activities or private activities. And so you see that this takes into account the long-term liabilities and also capital assets of governmental activities, and you'll see a total net position of $55.9 million June 30th, 2013, and that same figure that we mentioned earlier in the Service Authority of $14.1 million of net position for the authority. And on Exhibit 2, you'll see respectively that's a $1.7 million decrease and a $462,000 decrease in net position. Exhibit 3 for your governmental funds is your normal balance sheet that you're accustomed to. So again, I kind of point this out each year, but there's two different bases of accounting that are shown in this report for governmental activities. There's that full accrual that we just went through, and then there's the standard fund balances that don't have the long-term liabilities and capital assets included on that basis. And so on the fund basis, you had total fund balances in the general fund at June 30th, 13 of $20,235,304, and total overall fund balances of governmental funds of $45,810,000. Of that, $17.6 million was unassigned, which is compared to $17.7 million of unassigned at June 30th, 12. And on Exhibit 4, you'll see that those fund balances represented a decrease in the general fund of $4.2 million, and we'll get into the components of that decrease in a moment on another exhibit, and then overall a decrease of $6.9 million of fund balance in June 30th, 2013 year ended. The next couple exhibits are again